Hey guys, in this video I'll discuss a pitfall that 99% of ADC players fall into in regards to spending their gold on bases in Season 16, and I'll show you exactly what and when you should be doing. I'm Neon, your favorite ADC coach and streamer. I've gotten rank 1 3 times and played in the LEC for 5 years, so you better believe I'm the best at this. Let's start like this, okay? Imagine you are playing Jinx and want to build Yuntal first. However, on your first base, you have 1100 gold. What would you do? What would you buy in this instance? Option A, boots, longsword, and cool. Option B, attack speed boots. Option C, scout slingshot, longsword, and refillable. If you picked option B or option C, you would be incorrect. Let me explain. If you play AD carry in Season 16, chances are you are building one of these items first. Essence Reaver, Yuntal, Stormrazor, maybe Trinity Force or Kraken Slayer. For Yuntal and Stormrazor, they are built out of BF Sword, a super important 1300 gold component, but realistically nowadays, it is quite rare to be able to get BF on your first base. Of course, if you get BF Sword on each first base, you're golden and probably don't need to watch this video, but the real problem arises when you base and have less than that. Most players just buy Cloud Slingshot and boots and call it a day, but I'm here to explain why that's extremely bad and you should avoid doing it at all costs. First of all, especially in the early game, we are always looking to get the most value and fighting power out of gold spent. Think of spending your gold early game as an investment. The stronger you come out of base, the higher the chance of you winning the next fight or skirmish and snowballing the game as a result of that. So we always want to optimize for this. Now, I want you to look at these components that build into the previously mentioned items. Can you see what all these components share? Exactly. They are extremely gold inefficient. Compare the Heartbound Axe to Lost Chapter as an example. Both cost the same amount of gold, but the AD item is 100% gold efficient, meaning there is no difference between having the item and having 2 longswords and 2 daggers. But the AP item is 133% gold efficient, and on top of that has a really broken passive. Back to another point. Let's think about which stats have the most value in early game in general. The best stats for fighting early game would be flat health and attack damage. Since we never build health on ADC in early game, it's going to be attack damage. Now, attack damage compared to attack speed, for example, is roughly 10 times better. Why, you might ask? One makes my autos deal more damage, the other one makes me shoot more autos, so eventually it should level out, right? Wrong. First of all, attack damage not only increases your damage of your auto attacks, but also the damage of your abilities. And second, most of the times, in lane, you're either trading auto attacks one at a time or poking enemies with your abilities. In all these instances, having a dagger makes very little difference. So basically, our goal on the first base is to avoid building these items, get as much AD as we can, and make it easier for us to get BF Sword later by also knowing when to not spend gold. More on that a little bit later. Here is a cute flowchart. Always, when building items, prioritize longswords over anything else. The second tier represents items that you want to build after you had already got the amount of longswords needed for your first item, and I rank them in order of priority. The reason why I love Cool so much this season is because it acts as a good second option if we can't get that juicy first base BF Sword. Let's say I'm playing Jhin and I want to go Stormrazor first, but on my first base I can't get BF Sword. In that case, I would much rather go Cool than a 600 gold attack speed item. The third tier represents the ugly and expensive items which you want to avoid. I mean, just look at Warhammer, for example. The item costs 1050, gives you 20 AD, so you literally pay 350 gold for 10 ability haste, which gives you basically no value early game compared to another longsword or boots, for example. Same for this attack speed item. Like, here you at least get a little passive to offset the fact that you just blew 600 gold on some attack speed. Basically, we try to avoid building these components as much as possible so we can extract more value from building slightly differently. So here is a little chart I made with some examples of how I would build these items on bases. Here are some examples of bases, okay? Some of these list 2 different possible options that you could choose, so you can play around, you can find what suits your personal preference. Let's just dive into it a little bit first, okay? So we have Stormrazor, which has no longsword in its build path, right? So imagine, let's just say for the sake of the example, we are playing Jhin, so we don't want to be getting attack speed really, so You know, you always try to get cool boots, refillable potion, you know, stay away from the attack speed. And as you can see, from 900 gold onwards, I'm actually building the same items every base. Why, you might ask? I'm leaving my base with unspent gold. Well, I think in this instance, it's much better to just hold on to your gold and have a higher chance of getting your BF sword sooner, so saving up for that BF sword, right? The same thing goes for pretty much the other items as well. Like here you see the same thing. We are not really changing the items that we buy, because eventually you are fine with leaving the base with a little bit of gold, because that means you get that BF sword base a bit faster, instead of always trying to spend all your gold. Like, I always try to spend every little dime of gold in these early phases of lane, because here it matters the most. But once I'm approaching these items, I don't really want to get more daggers to delay my BF sword, right? Then we have an item like Essence Reaver, where you see we're optimizing for the long swords. Sometimes I like to even get a health potion, especially in the early bases. I think a health potion is very underrated, because popping this in a fight is very... You know, like, people kind of forget that it still does a lot. It has a lot of health regen for a very short amount of time. So in a fight, this can be really nice. Here, for example, we have a 900 gold base, and we have Sheen and 2 longswords. And you might ask, what should I play? So take a champion like Ezreal, for example. Like with Ezreal, proccing Sheen is very easy. And indeed, Sheen, in my opinion, is the correct item to get there. But take a champion like Sivir, for example, that also might want to go ER first. Well, a Sivir will much more likely prefer 2 longswords, because of her Q, her W, which both have AD scalings, right? And she doesn't really have an easy way of proccing Sheen. So depends on the champion, also depends somewhat on your personal preference. This is just an example of how I would be building these items if I based on this amount of gold. Same for Trinity Force. Trinity Force is my favorite item to build, probably because you can always get a mixture of longswords or a ruby crystal here and there. So I always have a lot of fun building this item. Same goes for Kraken Slayer and pretty much any AD carry item. Once again, thanks for watching. Let me please know in the comments what you would like to see next. See you on my stream or my next video. Peace.